You probably think that a glass of milk in your fridge is one of the most natural things in the world. You might even believe humans have been drinking animal milk since the dawn of time. But if you were to offer that same glass of milk to one of your ancestors living just 10,000 years ago, you would be handing them a glass of poison. For nearly the entire history of the human race, animal milk was effectively toxic to every single adult on the planet. Most of the world still cannot digest it today. In fact, if you can drink milk as an adult without feeling like your stomach is exploding, you are actually an evolutionary mutant. You are a living testament to a massive biological glitch that occurred in a single region of the world. This is the story of how a deadly substance became a global superfood and how a tiny genetic switch saved our species from certain extinction. To understand why milk was such a problem, you have to look at how mammals are built. Every mammal on Earth is born with the ability to digest milk because it is the only way for an infant to survive. Your body produces a specific enzyme called lactase, which breaks down the sugar in milk, known as lactose. But for millions of years, nature had a very strict rule for this process. Once a young mammal stopped nursing and transitioned to solid food, the body would permanently flip a biological switch. The production of that enzyme would simply stop. This makes perfect sense because in the wild there is no reason for an adult animal to keep drinking milk. Without that enzyme, any adult human who tried to drink milk would experience severe bloating, cramps, and life-threatening dehydration. This was the biological wall our ancestors lived behind for hundreds of thousands of years. Even as humans became smarter and began to dominate the planet, we were still shackled to this rule. Archaeologists have analyzed the remains of ancient humans and found that even during the Ice Age, we lacked the genes necessary to process milk as adults. We were hunter-gatherers living on the edge of survival, and the idea of stealing milk from another animal was completely alien. It was a resource that existed all around us in the form of wild cattle and goats, yet it was totally inaccessible to us. But then, something shifted. Around 9,000 years ago, the first farmers in the Near East and Europe began to do something that should have been impossible. They started using milk. This is the first major revelation in the history of milk. For a long time, scientists assumed that humans only started using milk once they evolved the ability to digest it. They figured the gene came first and the habit followed. But we now know the truth is much more confusing. We actually started using milk thousands of years before we were genetically equipped to handle it. Evidence from ancient pottery and chemical analysis shows that milk use was widespread in Europe for nearly 9,000 years, even though almost everyone was still technically lactose intolerant. You might wonder how our ancestors survived this. They didn't just drink raw milk and suffer the consequences. Instead, they invented a clever cultural hack. They learned that if you ferment milk into cheese or yogurt, the bacteria eat up most of the lactose for you. They were essentially processing the milk outside of their bodies so they could bypass their own biological limitations. However, even with the invention of cheese, raw milk remained a dangerous gamble. It was a high-energy resource that could keep you alive, but it could also kill you if you drank too much of it. This tension existed for thousands of years until a tiny genetic accident changed everything. This brings us to the second revelation. The genetic switch that allows you to drink milk as an adult is not something that evolved gradually over millions of years. It was a sudden, violent mutation. Researchers have traced this specific mutation, known as the T allele, to a very specific place and time. It first emerged roughly 6,000 years ago in the region of the Ukraine and the Pontic steppe. This was a region of massive migrations and shifting populations. This mutation did not just change how people ate, it acted like a biological turbocharger for the populations that carried it. At first, the mutation was incredibly rare. Even in the Bell Beaker period, which was a pivotal time for the genetic makeup of Europe, the ability to digest milk was still very uncommon. But once it took hold, it spread with a speed that has shocked evolutionary biologists. The ability to digest milk is actually the most strongly selected single gene trait in the history of the European genome. It spreads faster than light skin, faster than blue eyes, and faster than any other physical characteristic we associate with modern humans. But why was it so powerful? If people could already make cheese and yogurt, why did their bodies need to evolve the ability to drink raw milk? The answer to this mystery is the third and most shocking revelation. For decades, the standard theory was that milk provided a nutritional advantage. People thought milk was just a great source of calcium and calories in cold climates. But a landmark study recently challenged this entire idea. It turns out that humans could consume milk perfectly fine as long as they were healthy. If you are a healthy person with a bit of lactose intolerance, drinking a little milk might give you some gas, but it won't kill you. The mutation only becomes a matter of life and death when things go wrong. Scientists discovered that the pressure to evolve milk digestion was actually driven by famine and disease. Imagine you are living in an ancient settlement 4,000 years ago. Crops have failed, and there is no food left. You are starving and weak. The only thing you have left is your herd of cattle. You are forced to drink their raw milk because you have no other choice. But because you are already undernourished, the lactose in that milk triggers severe explosive diarrhea. In a healthy person, this is an inconvenience. In a starving person, this is a death sentence. It leads to rapid dehydration and total organ failure. The same thing happens during a plague or a disease outbreak. If your settlement has poor sanitation and everyone is getting sick with diarrheal diseases, drinking milk makes the symptoms 10 times worse. During these combined crises of famine and disease, the people who lacked the mutation died off in massive numbers. The only ones who walked away were the mutants. This is why the mutation was turbocharged relatively late in human prehistory. As human populations grew denser and settlements became larger, we became more susceptible to epidemic diseases and total crop failures. The ability to drink raw milk wasn't just a convenience, it was the ultimate survival insurance policy. It allowed our ancestors to use their cattle as a walking pantry that could provide clean, high-energy hydration even when the world was falling apart around them. This genetic selection was so intense that in regions like Britain and Scandinavia, the frequency of this gene went from almost 0 to over 90% in just a few thousand years. When you look at the modern world, you are seeing the map of these ancient disasters. In Northern Europe, where the winters were harsh and famines were frequent, almost everyone can drink milk today. But in East Asia, where different cultural practices and environments existed, the mutation never took hold in the same way, leaving less than 5% of the population able to digest it. We see similar patterns in parts of West Africa and the Middle East, where different mutations evolved independently to solve the same problem. It is a perfect example of convergent evolution, where the human genome found different ways to unlock the same life-saving resource. Your ability to enjoy a bowl of cereal or an ice cream cone is not a standard human feature. It is a Mesolithic legacy, a biological scar left behind by thousands of years of starvation and plague. You are the descendant of the few people who were lucky enough to have a broken genetic switch that never turned off. Every time you drink a glass of milk, you are using a technology that took 9,000 years of suffering to perfect. It makes you realize that our bodies are not just machines built for the modern world. They are mosaics made of ancient migrations, genetic bottlenecks, and desperate attempts to survive a world that was constantly trying to kill us. The story of milk is a testament to how culture and biology dance together to shape our destiny. We changed our environment by domesticating animals, which created a new stress that forced our DNA to change in response. Click here to find out how blue eyes and light skin were the final pieces of this prehistoric puzzle.